Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com.
Here at the big4accountingfirms.com, we try to accomplish two things. We try to help Big Four candidates get the Big Four job that they want, and we also try to help motivated Big Four professionals have fulfilling careers at the Big Four. And we do this by helping Big Four candidates learn about the largest accounting firms in the world and by teaching them about the recruiting process. And we also seek to help Big Four professionals by, number one, providing tactics, tools, and habits of the most successful Big Four partners and professionals. Two, educating those Big Four professionals on the latest services and technologies that are being offered by the Big Four so that they can use that knowledge in their discussions with their peers in the Big Four and with their clients. And three, we try to reduce Big Four scandals and discrimination by raising awareness around them and by providing roadmaps on how they can be prevented in the future. And four, we try to reduce the frustration of bureaucracy in the Big Four by raising awareness around it and also by providing alternative approaches that the Big Four can use in the future to make careers for Big Four professionals more sustainable. So if you want to be part of the positive change, please help us reach more Big Four candidates and Big Four professionals by forwarding this podcast onto someone you know that might be interested in improving the Big Four accounting firms. There were a number of positive news stories about the Big Four accounting firms in the second week of March, and we'll be covering a few of those today. One of them is about introducing new programs for community building and social development, and there are also big client wins for certain of the Big Four. First up, we wanted to talk about Deloitte and KPMG being recognized for work that they've done with Junior Achievement USA. First up, Deloitte was among 57 organizations recently recognized by Junior Achievement USA for their continued support and invaluable contribution to Junior Achievement's community building and education work for students across the United States. Deloitte received a gold level 2016-2017 U.S. President's Volunteer Service Award. And you only get this award for totaling at least 15,000 employee volunteer hours for that time period. During that time period, they helped local junior achievement offices teach students about entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and work preparedness. Deloitte Consulting's principal, Aner Ajala Jr., who received the award on behalf of the firm, proudly noted that their employees have regularly volunteered to work with junior achievement and that Deloitte itself had donated over $1 million in 2003 to support the developments of an ethics curriculum for grades 4 to 12 students. Now, KPMG also received the gold level status for the U.S. President's Volunteer Service Award, and this means they also had at least contributed 15,000 volunteer work hours to support entrepreneurship and financial literacy for the junior achievement. And Rob Arning spoke on behalf of KPMG Foundation, and he described their employees as extraordinary people and reaffirmed the company's commitment to curb illiteracy and unemployment by engaging middle school and high school students. Now, what can you gain from this news story? One thing I can tell you is that all the Big Four accounting firms are involved in junior achievement because of the financial literacy aspect. It fits with their brand, which is accounting. So if you are looking to get involved with a volunteer organization because either that's who you are or because you want to impress the Big Four accounting firms, then it would be a good idea to get involved with the Junior Achievement USA. And you can go to juniораchievement.org for more information. And this applies to Big Four candidates or current Big Four professionals alike. Get involved in junior achievement and put it on your LinkedIn or your resume today. That way you can reap the rewards personally and professionally. Next up, we are going to be discussing some significant investments and wins that Deloitte has made in the Middle East. As part of its expansion program in the Middle East, Deloitte entered into a partnership agreement with Dubai government's Department of Finance to assist in the implementation phase of the International Public Sector Accounting Standards. The partnership hopes to improve the quality of financial reporting of government agencies, with the ultimate goal being strengthening transparency, reliability, and accountability. And this move is a testament to the government's commitment to financial effectiveness by upholding high-quality international standards of financial reporting in the government and the public sector. And this is really strong for Deloitte's brand because getting involved with a government agency only shows that you're capable of handling large contracts and large clients. Meanwhile, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Deloitte will invest in building the Deloitte Digital Center, or DDC, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to support the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology as they move forward in developing their digital skills. And through this state-of-the-art facility, Deloitte will not only hopes to educate young people about digital technologies, but more importantly, they want to contribute to building a thriving economy and a vibrant, innovative society with new job opportunities for many Saudi citizens. And those words came from Deloitte Global CEO Puneet Renjan. Another investment that Deloitte made in the Middle East is that they intend to support the Middle East social development agenda by launching the Deloitte Accelerator for Social Innovation, a program in collaboration with Oshaka Arab World and Communication Design that will provide technical assistance valued at over $100,000. And they're going to offer this assistance to organizations that adopt a viable and scalable social development and environmental protection strategy. These organizations will ideally have women in leadership roles. 2 social enterprises will be chosen from the 14 countries in the Middle East, and they will receive expert advice and training from Deloitte. Winners will also enjoy other learning and networking opportunities to further develop their plans. Deloitte Middle East Chief Executive Officer Omar Fahum explained that Deloitte's Accelerator for Social Innovation is an exemplification of Deloitte's corporate responsibility, where we aim to positively impact the greatest number of people in the Middle East communities through our core expertise and our global Deloitte World-Class initiative that aims to empower 50 million futures by 2030. So what do all these stories in the Middle East show about Deloitte? Well, it shows that Deloitte is always expanding their global footprint, and so are the other Big Four accounting firms. And this is what separates them from their mid-tier counterparts, is that they're everywhere all over the world and they're constantly growing. And not only are they gaining new clients as they are in Dubai, but they're also doing social development in the Middle East through this Deloitte Accelerator. So remember that these Big Four accounting firms are not only big today, but they keep growing bigger. In our next story, we'll be talking about KPMG getting paid a record amount from one of their clients. But before we get to that, I wanted to remind you that we have a number of books on Amazon to help you with your Big Four interview, whether that's understanding who the Big Four are, understanding the recruiting process, and if you need help with interview questions. And we also have an interview course if you want more thorough preparation for your Big Four interview. And just wanted to remind you to check the show notes of this podcast, as there will be links to all of those resources. Thanks, and we'll get you back to the show. The next story is about KPMG not only keeping one of their big clients, but also earning a record amount from them. KPMG received $142.9 million in fees from General Electric for the past year. And as you know, GE is one of the largest companies in the world. And this is the highest fee that KPMG has ever received in more than 100 years of auditing GE. And this news came out from GE's latest financial statements and proxy. And GE decided to stick with KPMG as their auditor for at least another year because of the firm's institutional knowledge of the company and their accounting issues with federal securities regulators. The amount GE paid KPMG in 2017 increased by 59% compared to the previous year. This is primarily due to the GE Baker Hughes merger. And this came despite a few questions from a small percentage of shareholders, and GE's financial officer, Jamie Miller, continued to show confidence in KPMG and said that while there are no plans to let go of the firm this year, there are discussions being held on a yearly basis. And one of the reasons this is a big news story is because GE is all over the news because of accounting issues that they had in their insurance unit. Because of these accounting issues, people are bringing into question the auditor, which is KPMG. So people were thinking maybe GE might be considering transitioning from KPMG. But if you listen to this podcast, you might know that that won't necessarily happen because there's too much transition that has to go on. The new auditor has to get the work papers. The new auditor is going to charge a higher fee in the first few years to, quote unquote, get a better understanding of the financials. So GE is going to be content sticking with KPMG. And the only reason they would change is if there was a bunch of shareholders that wanted that change. Our next story is about E&Y trying to build more robots. But before we get to that, I wanted to remind you to follow us on our social media accounts, and specifically on LinkedIn and Facebook, because I've been having people reaching out to me on both of those mediums. So I'll include those links in the show notes, and make sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or Facebook if you have questions. So now let's get back to the show. Do you know that E&Y is building robots in Canada? Well, they are. And they launched their robotic services facility in Halifax, Canada. This is the first kind of its facilities in Canada. And this is in response to all of the digital transformation that's going on in the world right now. This facility is part of the E&Y Global Centers of Excellence across the world. And these centers have completed robotics process automations projects in over 20 countries worldwide. And it looks to deliver more RPA-based digital services to back office functions of Canadian companies. The decision to build the facility in Halifax was made because it is known to be a hub for talent and innovation, and because of its access to a well-educated and diverse workforce, an accessible airport, and a relatively affordable cost of living, per Jad Shimali, who is E&Y Canada's Advisory Services Managing Partner. And through this center, E&Y hopes to contribute to the growth of the city and the region as a technology expert. And there's a lot of innovation going on in Canada recently because Canada feels like they've been getting behind the ball as compared to the US and other countries. So their government is getting more involved in these technological solutions and supporting companies that build technological solutions. And our last story might be one of the most interesting stories of the week. To help companies trace their digital tokens after their initial coin offering, PwC is testing a blockchain analytics tool that's been developed by over 80 technology experts. And this tool is more than just a digital ledger. It is intended to complement blockchain technology by enabling the user to not only track the transaction amounts, but also to locate digital coins and know how these cryptocurrencies are being used. In this way, companies can lessen the risks associated with misuse and theft post-issuance. And these companies can also better anticipate the potential circulations of digital tokens. PwC is looking to offer this tool to companies planning to launch initial coin offerings. And this is important to know because if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that the Big Four are getting heavily involved in blockchain technologies. And blockchain is becoming more and more one of the biggest services that the Big Four are trying to offer because it's a hot topic in the news. And if you listen to the news about these cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, there are people concerned about how they're being used. And one of those organizations is the IRS in the United States, the Internal Revenue Service. They are interested in understanding how these coins are being used. So PwC sees this and they respond to it. So it's good to know this. And if you're interested in blockchain technology and that is a career, it'd probably be good to explore that at the Big Four. So if we look back at the news stories from this week, what did we learn? We learned first up how important community involvement is to the Big Four through their achievements with the Junior Achievement Society in the US. Getting involved in your community is very important, not only for personal fulfillment, but also for your professional development. Getting involved in the community looks very good on your resume. This is also very important to Big Four partners. Many Big Four partners are mandated to be on non-for-profit boards. They have to find a not-for-profit and they have to get on the board. And many of them get involved in the Junior Achievement because all of the Big Four are involved in Junior Achievement. So how can you take advantage of this? You can take advantage of this by getting involved in Junior Achievement. And as you noticed in our news story that we covered, that one of the parts of them winning this award is achieving 15,000 hours. So if you contribute, let's say 50 hours, then you can put that on your resume or even if you do hundreds of hours, which would be hard, but if you do, writing that down, and that sort of shows the action you took and how you helped the company achieve a goal. So you don't need to go out there and join 5 necessarily volunteer organizations. Choose the one that's going to give you the most impact in your professional and personal life. One of the next stories I wanted to summarize was the KPMG and GE story. What can we learn from that one? We learned that not only did KPMG keep the audit of GE during one of GE's toughest years, but they also made a record amount of revenue. One of the controversies with GE is their accounting. And you might think, hey, GE had problems with accounting and KPMG was there auditing them all these years. Why wouldn't GE kick them off? And you can learn from something from that. You can learn that getting it right isn't 100% mandatory at the Big Four. The Big Four don't always get everything right. And even something like this, where you think this is a huge number in their financial statements and they're having one of their toughest years, you think they'll be cleaning decks and you think they would fire KPMG. Well, they didn't. And this is because of business relationships and costs. And it's very hard for a large company to change auditors just because work paper requests and the logistics, it gets very difficult. And not only that, you also don't want that new Big Four accounting firm to come in there and find something new, because that's what they'll do, right? They're going to come in right away, the next accounting firm, which will be another Big Four. It would be E&Y, PwC, or Deloitte. And then they're not only going to charge more than KPMG did historically because they don't have the historical knowledge, but they're also going to probably find something that KPMG signed off on that was correct. And this happens in financial statements where, KPMG or whatever Big Four has their national practice look at something, writes a memo about it, and gets comfortable. But it's a tough position that the company's taken. And so one of the other Big Four have a different policy in their accounting manual, and they say, no, that's wrong, and you have an even larger write-off. So even though GE is having a tough year, they know if they change auditors, they could have a tougher one because expenses would go up and there might be a charge-off. That's something you can learn from that news story right there. For the last couple of stories with E&Y and robotics and PwC and cryptography, you can see that the Big Four are getting more and more involved in technology solutions and developing technology products and services. And these technology products and services are everything that's in the headlines. For example, robotics is everywhere in the news, and so is Bitcoin and cryptography. So they're out there building as many different products and services that they can, and they're joining in as many partnerships as they can. In Canada, the government is helping out as many companies as possible to build technological solutions. So E&Y is building a center of excellence in Canada to take advantage of that. And robotics process automation is here to stay. There's going to be many people whose jobs are replaced by robotics process automation that's built out by the Big Four. So you might want to learn more about robotics process automation. And another key thing to learn from that story is that there's going to be back office tasks that are going to be replaced by these. So think of payroll automation, invoice automation, anything that's accounts payable automation, anything that's very manual and that people used to do 9 to 5 are going to be replaced by these robots because they can do anything that a human can do in Excel or on a computer. So make sure to look into that, and we'll keep you up to date on those services as well. And as far as blockchain development, this cryptography tracker that PwC has built in is very interesting, and more blockchain solutions come out every single day. And as we've discussed on this podcast before, all the Big Four have blockchain labs or centers of excellence around blockchain because people are getting interested in this and people are wanting to build solutions around this. Now, as to the long-term viability of blockchain, there are varying degrees of opinions on that, but right now it's a hot topic in society, so the Big Four are taking advantage of it and striking while the iron is hot.
We appreciate your help in growing this podcast so we can continue to bring you the best Big Four content possible. You could help us out by providing a review on iTunes, sending us an email with your comments, and don't forget to share with your friends. There's a link below in the show notes. That's our show for today. Thanks for listening and have a great day.